suppose we're live now. Good afternoon, people. While this session is just placed before lunch, I think there's a lot of food for thought which we have among the retail community as to how things are going to be post-COVID, how things are going to be now, and how rapidly things are changing around the world, not just in India. And this session, which is largely focused on micro problems of retailers, where we've got a variety of retailers on board, and we are going to take up the questions. So we have with us Sandeep Jalan. Sandeep runs Shohum Shoppe Limited from Guwahati, Northeast, and he's a fairly big brand in the Northeast, and maybe the shoppers of Northeast even bigger than the shoppers of Northeast. Welcome, Sandeep. We have Anurag Poddar. Anurag Poddar runs the gifting brand Presto. They are present both online and offline. And in the last 2 years, they've evolved an e-tail journey. And about 40%, Anurag, of your turnover is from e-tail. And the rest comes from the stores. We have Baazar Kolkata, Tejash from Baazar Kolkata. Tejash needs no introduction. Baazar Kolkata is indeed a big name as far as fashion is concerned in eastern part of India, now spreading to UP, MP, and other states in north and eastern part of India. We have Rachit Agarwal with us. Rachit deals in the high-end fashion category, more of the Indian ethnic wear, which is of the wedding season spending and the discretionary spending. Rachit runs the brand Simaya and Sasya, if I'm not wrong. And
Yeah.
Rachit is going to help us understand how the consumer spending is going to be in the discretionary category. We also have Siddharth. Siddharth, welcome. Siddharth's finally managed to log in. Siddharth has wears multiple hats, many hats. He runs a mall. He is into online retailing. He has a bookstore, and one of the early pioneers of retail in his organized retail in Eastern India. So Siddharth's going to give us more of a mall side perspective and a Raymond side story, how things are moving and how things are going to be on post COVID. So that's about it, gentlemen. I over to you. So I'll allow you to speak and give in your perspective of how the biggest pain which you're facing due to this pandemic and your coping up strategy which you're taking up as of now. I think we'll start with Anurag. Anurag.
Okay. Thank you, Pulkit, for the wonderful introduction, and thank you to Retailers Association of India for this wonderful opportunity. We get together, we brainstorm, we understand from each other, and all our challenges are unique. There is no single solution that fits each and every of us. But yes, largely 50%, 60%, some part of it is common, and we can learn from each other. Now, we really don't need to emphasize on what COVID has brought to us. We are in the whole world is in a reboot mode right now. And one thing is for sure, while the situation is still evolving, that we will see an end to it. But when and after how much damage, we really don't know. So, uh, one thing that is very clear to us in Presto is that we should not plan too early because the situation is still evolving and the goalpost is shifting every week. What we planned on 15th of March was not relevant by end of March. What we planned on end of first week of April is not relevant today. And I'm sure we'll see a different situation by end of April and then May. When we started, we were thinking that we'll be back to work by 15th of April. Now people have started talking about maybe a quarter. Some people have started talking about end of financial year 2021. So because we have to understand that there are two sides of it. One is the medical side and one is the business side. The medical problem is going to remain till a vaccine comes and it is administered. So till then, everybody is going to get infected, and people would obviously change their habits, and they would not want to venture out to retail shops and or to the minimum possible.
Mhm.
So, and the other side is the uh, problems that this will bring to the businesses itself, and that is why we are here. So I would say that this would simply reinvent the way we look at business, the way we do business. And for those of us, it is possible to remodel ourselves. We should absolutely do. But for certain businesses, it is just not possible. So, but we should look inward and focus on what we can do differently to meet the times that are changing. However, we should not overdo it either, so that when things come back to normalcy, you've already lost your core competence. So, when we talk of downsizing, or when we talk of taking corrective measures, we also need to be careful about the fact that you build your businesses over decades, maybe over
Right,
generations. So you
right.
should not be cutting into your core competence so much that you cut down the muscle itself. So whatever losses we are going to bear during this time, I would say, as far as possible, capitalize it if you have, the capability to do so. And is every business going to be impacted in the same way? No, it is on a scale of 1 to 10. If I say that people who would be most impacted are placed at 10 and people who would be least impacted are placed at 1, then I would put Presto somewhere in between. Because by not by design, by coincidence, we've been working on the e-commerce model for last couple of years pretty hard.
Okay.
And Presto comes from the personalized gifting. It is, we bring small joys into people's life. Our ticket sizes are maybe 500, 700. So it's not a major purchase decision that a person has to take. It's like less than the cost of a dinner you have outside. So I would say that in the very short term, we would have impact definitely, but in the medium and long term, I think since the conspicuous buying is going to go out of the window, people still have to, humans are, programmed to have small joys in life. So people would turn to, products which fit into the small joy category, and we would see better days sooner rather than later.
Okay,
And
I'll take it from there, Anurag, and I'll direct from you to Rachit. So you mentioned a couple of points. You mentioned how your small ticket size is small joy, and small ticket size should not get affected over a period of time, and how you've moved from offline retail to e-retail, and how that has benefited you. So Rachit, coming to you, for you, the products which you sell and retail are largely experiential. So the customer comes in and tries the lehenga and one lehenga after the other and spends 6 hours from morning to evening at your store to get the perfect lehenga, and you treat them with what all goodies. So you cannot probably have the same solution delivered on an e-tail platform, is what I understand. One. Second, you don't have a small ticket size. So people spend a fortune on their wedding lehenga and their wedding dresses. So you cannot really say that, since it's a small ticket size, it's going to be hunky dory after a small period of time. So you have diametrically opposite problems. Can you tell me how you're going to handle them and help the listeners who are in the similar line of business get some ideas?
Thanks, Pulkit, and welcome everybody. Uh, as we are more into ethnic wear and occasion wear business, our main focal point is wedding. And I think in India, wedding is one thing which everybody uh, enjoys. The whole family, uh, yeah, everybody in the family is one thing which is most important, and people actually save for that thing. So when you talk about from the wedding industry, the crisis has been hit the hardest to us because there'll be all the weddings of April and May has been cancelled. They have been shifted to 40 to 50% of them has been postponed to June and July, and we don't know whether in June and July also it's going to take place. So there are a lot of people I know, they are planning to do it. Either they have cancelled it for now and they have not even decided when they are going to do, and some of them are planning to have the weddings in winter season
Sorry to
in
interrupt,
October.
Rachit, but I think there are Zoom weddings also happening.
So yeah, they have been a wedding which is like a 10-15 people close family wedding. So I think the whole scenario of this wedding, uh, big fat wedding of Indian is going to change. Till this thing, we don't get a kind of a vaccine or something for this COVID-19. So what we are looking at, like we are going to drive, uh, see what happens in our wedding market. It's sure that there's a whole, when you are traveling less, you're not going for weddings. There's less of occasions because of social distancing. They're,
Right.
they're spending on your clothes and on your designer wear stuff, clothes, buy. It's like going to be very, very less. And when you talk about office also, office wear, uh, like people have started, a lot of offices who are into service and everything, they're going to work from home. It's going to come into a culture. So that's going to be a new normal. So there's going to be we are going to see a lot of changes, and how post COVID, the whole scenario of the style of working, new normal will be a different. Like, and it can be, so there are two ways we think about it. One is that, and the other way, how China is doing after opening a store, like if the Louis Vuitton store did a 15 million sale in a like a single day. So it was like a, you don't know how people are going to react. So they can be like, people are like tired of staying at home, and when they come out, they might like move to stores like ours, which are on high end store, high end uh, on high streets, instead of going to malls. So that we are thinking of offering them by appointment sales. What post COVID, what we think for our customers, that we'll be like, we are going to, so for us, safety of the staff, the customer, and our vendors will be the most priority. So we are going to take safety as one measures, where we are going to incorporate a lot of safety measures of checking our staff, and there has to be a trust between the client,
I'll
that yeah, sure, sure, sure.
I'll take that cue from you, Rachit, and I'll move to Siddharth. Siddharth, Rachit feels that post COVID, people would just suddenly come out of their houses and they're tired of staying in their house for so long. Lockdown 1.0, lockdown 2.0, and then probably a 3.0 is also coming in, and they will rush out to stores like it happened in China, and on malls. And you running a mall, do you have a similar take on it? Do you think malls which were largely social places, are they going to remain social places in the next 6 to 9 months, or are they going to become functional places?
See, so what we are doing at Primark across all our businesses now, we've come out of that long-term planning zone or the long-term visualizing zone to very short-term 7-day plans and 15-day plans, because the future is uncertain. And the future will be, this is the first time in the history of the country where you see future will be different, interstate, between different states. Like Kerala is thinking of opening bookshops, somebody is saying, "Ye nahi karna hai." So it will be very micro. So you can't try, and we are not at least trying to do a very picture. Obviously, things will change. What will be the impact? Only time can say. So currently, our focus is 15-day plan, 7-day plan, 3-month plan. We are not even looking beyond it. There's a very high possibility as we speak, and this is all depend on what is the vaccine for this, or what is the treatment for this, how people die, don't die, how they are treated. So it will depend on that. But given one thing looks very, very clear, we don't see malls getting footfalls more than 35% of what they used to get, for the simple reason. Multiplex and food, restaurants and food courts used to drive 35%, entertainment drive 35-40% footfall. Even if people recover, there'll be huge stigma and fear of, so once those 30-35% footfalls are gone, and then if there is no immediate rush to buy, so, only the other 65%, only 50% will visit. So I don't see this normalizing for malls, at least in the next 3 to 4 months. Post that, what happens, it's anybody's guess based on social trends, health, hygiene. If there is a vaccine, everything will finish. So the long-term solution to is only the vaccine. Until that comes, everybody will be in a dilemma what to do, what not to do.
So you feel that there is going to be a behavioral change, but that could be limited to such time that the vaccine has come in and the fear has been completely eradicated. But given that there is a 35% or 50% drop in the footfall in the mall, and how do you think mall owners are going to strategize that, with most of the tenants writing mails for relief on rent, as far as the lockdown period is concerned, and some F&B retailers even beyond maybe asking for relief?
See, it's a double whammy, because one, and you have very large significant EMI payments to banks, which is based on the property. Property is a hypothecated and mortgage.
True.
So I think everybody needs to find a closer balance based on each person's business on what needs to be done. But I think largely everybody needs to work together. On the retailer side, since I'm a retailer in most places also, we run 40 odd Raymond stores. We have to see, this is a 2-month of a 9-year lease, which is a 108-month lease. This is a 2-month, 3-month period. So it's not even 2% of the entire lease tenure. So I think we need to create some partnerships to ensure both survive, So the strategy for somebody who's operating a store at 120 rupee rental will be very different to somebody who's operating a store at a 40 rupee rental. So we have to keep evaluating how things work, and that's what we'll have to see. But even the mall needs to survive. If the mall defaults on payments, it won't work.
True. So I'll take this question now from here to Tejas. Tejas, you belong to the finance community, and Baazar Kolkata has 85 stores. A large number of them, I suppose, would be rented. So how are you handling this as of now? While we all want to collaborate with our landlords and the lessors, but at the end of the day, money talks. So are you going forward and telling them that waive our rentals for X number of days or period? Or are you supporting them with, as Siddharth said, there's an EMI burden for the lesser also. So are you supporting them with 50% of the lease? What kind of formula are you working upon?
Yeah. So, Pulkit, if you see value retailers, how they operate, so we heavily depend upon our daily cash sales largely. So I think that's where from where we meet all our expenditures.
Right.
I think the biggest problem which has happened over last month and a half or so is the liquidity issue for all the value retailers, wherein cash is going to burn out. If you see like of competes, someone says that I have got cash flows to operate even with credit lines for only 2 months. There are people who have cash flows to operate up to 4 months. So if this lockdown persists, I think it's going to challenge. I think the way we are taking up with the landlords, I think it has to be a joint ownership. I think there were times when business was making money. I think we have honored our rental payments on time. We have honored our escalation clauses in, say, as per the agreement clauses. So now time has come, I think, wherein there has to be a clear transparency. There has to be a collaborative approach. In both parties should be transparent enough. We also appreciate that they would be having their loan EMIs to pay to the bankers. I think there has to be a balance which needs to be struck for the business to survive. So in times to come, I think the way we see it, there is a huge uncertainty in terms of how consumers are going to behave, whether there will be footfall in our stores or not, whether customers would shift largely to e-com. So if that happens, I think then it would be very difficult for the value retailers to sustain for a longer horizon. So I think there, both the party needs to strike a balance in terms of, say, revenue share model. To be able to run a business. The idea is not to think currently to have a profitable model, but rather a model which is at a break-even and sustainable model to weather this storm.
Okay, so you're looking more for sustenance, than for growth and then for profitability as of now. And I suppose you feel that the value retailers will feel the heat gradually more with e-com becoming more aggressive. So do you see that for value retailers, it's an option to exit a few stores which are not doing well? Do you think a lot of exits are going to happen in the 6 to 9 months? What's your take on that as an industry expert?
Absolutely. I think the way I see it from the comp and the industry, the way things have been taken up, there'll be significant amount of exits which are going to happen in times to come. I think people will have to look back towards the feasibility of operating a particular store. If it does not even meet the break-even, there's no point adding further cost to that store. So I think there will be significant amount of shift in next, I think, 6 to 9 months. So, till the time vaccine is out, I think that's the most critical time period which we are looking at.
Okay, Siddharth, I'll direct this to you. He says that value retailers may opt out of some stores, and that's the only way where survival could be possible if they're not making money. And as a lessor, do you think what could you do to probably excite them to stay in and not to move out?
Again, like he's mentioned, it's largely a partnership and a collaborative zone. So if there is a lessor in a particular, again, it will also depend geography to geography. So if there is a mall in which the value retailer is also doing pretty well, right, and by revenue share itself, the lessor is making revenues, so right, it won't change. But if there is a property, say at Jharsuguda, which you built and you've got a value retailer at a time and you see sales have dropped from 2 crores to 1 crore. Okay. So it will be situation based. This is one situation wherein whole of humanity, businesses on both sides of the table or the third side of the table have to come together. So there won't be one formula which fits all because it will keep changing. So the situation will be different. Calcutta versus Durgapur versus Jharsuguda is what I'm trying to say. So similarly, as a retailer, where I have a 1 lakh rupee rent, and my business is not got impacted usually, I will not also try and squeeze anything out of the landlord. But in a store where my rental is 6 lakh rupees and my business is around 70% or 60%, there I will really need that some comfort from that landlord. So it has to be situation based, factually based, transparency based, so that everybody can survive the next 6 months, and then world or economy will only say what is subsequent to that.
Right. I can't see Sandeep. I think probably he's got logged out or something, because I was going to direct the next question to him. So in his absence, I'll come to you, Anurag. Anurag, can you tell us about your 2-year e-tail journey? I mean, everybody seems to be moving digital during this COVID lockdown, from webinars to sales and everything. And you say 40% of your sales now are coming from e-retail. And would you encourage people like Rachit and Tejash to come online, or would you tell them that they have a different DNA and their customer has a different need altogether? What would be your take from your movement to e-tail?
As far as our e-commerce journey is concerned, we didn't prepare for COVID. Nobody saw it coming. Across the world, when you talk of personalized gifting, the way it sells is online. We did it the other way around some 15 years back by opening our retail stores. If you travel the world, you wouldn't normally see a retail store in a premium retail space selling personalized gifts. It's just not viable over there. So we were doing the hard task all these 15 years, and to some extent we entered the business as a coincidence. And there wasn't much e-commerce available those days. And you have some of the leading names in this particular field world over, and they're doing exceedingly good numbers in e-commerce. And inspired by that, we entered e-commerce. And now we have our website, and we sell on the marketplace also, and we are doing fairly well. And we have developed our own in-house competencies in terms of promoting yourself, because when you are selling online, it's not just about making a website. You also have to make it work so that people come to that website, so that people discover it. So it does take competence, and it also takes a bit of time. It cannot be created overnight. This is about us, and we, in any case, in last couple of years or 3 years, we were seeing that there was either the physical retail's sales had plateaued, in the sense that they were not growing really. And you, even if you're not growing, you're actually shrinking, because your rentals go up, your salaries go up, your electricity cost goes up. So there was actually a real in real terms, we were shrinking in physical retail. And now this COVID has struck. And e-commerce, whereas in the last couple of years we have had very good growth. So it has worked well for our category. I'm not very sure about the other categories, because I wouldn't have much knowledge about it.
Are you sorry to interrupt, are you getting orders now? As in, a lot of people are celebrating birthdays at home now when among COVID. So are you getting some orders which obviously you cannot execute with delivery, but are you getting orders now on your portal?
See, number one, there is a decrease in the traffic, but yes, it's not gone to zero. Maybe the traffic has gone to 50% as far as our own website is concerned. And e-commerce, Amazon has, of course, delisted all the non-essential products, so you cannot order on Amazon.
Right.
So we are having, a huge sales cut, but it is not zero yet. And we are telling everybody that post lockdown, we would be able to process their orders, because we can't stock anything. Everything that you order is made and then it is shipped. So only after third, hopefully when the lockdown opens, we would be able to ship those products. So we are getting a minuscule of orders. And so my on the second part that you said regarding my suggestion to Rachit and Tejas, well, it is they already, there are two sides of e-commerce. Basically, it is the product and whether you can sell it online or not. So they are already king of the first aspect, that is to make a quality product at a quality price which is acceptable to the consumer. It is
Right.
now only about creating a competence in terms of having capability to sell it online. So that is something that they have to develop. The first part they've already taken care of. So
Okay.
e-commerce, except for very interpersonal experiences, like you cannot possibly have a dinner online, but except for that, apparel certainly is very apt for online. So I encourage them to go for it.
All right. So I think Sandeep is coming back in, but while he connects into his audio, so I'll
So
direct this.
just to Pulkit, just to add to
Yes.
Anurag's point in terms of value retailers
Right.
going into e-com, I think the challenge is the readiness part of it. I think
Okay.
while the entire buying pattern, the way products are being bought, the size standardizations, the color standardizations, I think that would be very significant for any value retailers to go online, because
Mhm.
unless that happens, you cannot sell anything. Eventually, you will fall into a trap wherein there'll be significant. There'll be in the first month you'll see a huge spike in sales, but again next month there'll be a spike in the return.
Mhm.
So the readiness is something which is very important, and I am not sure to what extent the value retailers are ready in terms of their product hygiene to
Mhm.
be able to resort to e-com in such a short span of time. And another challenge is if you see in next 6 months time, we already are carrying a heavy inventory wherein we already lost one significant season, which was Poila Boishak. So
Mhm.
these inventories are already bought. Now, in next couple of months, if you see, there'll be no buying. People are now thinking of planning their winter buying, because naturally we'll drag this inventory
Right.
once we move into the August, because there is
Right.
not a season change happening. So we have a sufficient inventory for us to drag us till the month of say September, or even say Puja. There will be limited buying. So e-com per se, it's not easy for a value retailer to switch to. Again, hygiene and readiness is a big question mark in terms of people to resort to e-com.
All right.
That's the point which I would like to add.
So while we agree that digital is one of the tools going forward, but it may not be a swift transition, which you rightly pointed out. I'll come to you, Siddharth, once again. You are also on the marketplace and you retail significantly on the marketplace while you do offline. So would you? Anurag mentioned he has his own portal and the orders are still coming in, even though Amazon has delisted non-essentials from sales. So would you explain, I mean, to our listeners how they could go on board and marketplace and how it could be a success story post COVID?
I think it depends on the kind of retailers, because a lot of retailers, the brand themselves go online. So, Presto for Drag is his own brand, so he can do it himself online.
Hmm.
And a lot of franchisees actually are not allowed. So in the Raymond business, we don't do online. Raymond directly does the online. So it will
Right.
depend business to business. As we speak, most businesses are already online today, as far as brands or products are concerned, and that is what makes these marketplaces tremendously successful. But if anybody wants to really connect online, because there are many, all these channels, Amazon all have great videos on YouTube and otherwise. You can just decide tomorrow and start selling online. But obviously, this period of lockdown has to end so that the essential and non-essential items can get reconfigured.
Okay. I'll take up another issue, which is on the government side. So we have a lot of expectation on the government side as to what the government should be doing, and we have our own point of view. So as retailers, one key take which you would like to give to the central and state government as to what you expect them to do, so that that aids you or that helps you post COVID. Tejas, can we start from you?
Yeah. So the way the expectation from the industry would be, both the center and state has to work in coordination. I think one way or the other, if you see today in terms of minimum wage increment,
Right.
on the other hand, there is a center Ministry of Home Affairs. They have issued an order wherein if you don't pay salary to people, there will be penal consequences.
Mhm.
Uh, and at the wake of this time, there's a hike in minimum wage for specifically like state like Bihar, UP. There's already a minimum wage hike from April. So you're already struggling, and amidst this, if this type of non-coordinated stuffs which comes from state and center, I think it's gonna make situation worse, and it will challenge further people like us in terms of how do we sustain from here. Uh, Definitely, I think there has to be a call in terms of minimum wage, which a state can take, but it has to be a coordinated effort. And I think the right time needs to be considered while releasing this sort of notification. That's one bit. Second bit would be in terms of resuming the operation. I think once we resume the operation, I think there has to be a clear guidelines or directives which we expect from both center and state. Again, a draft can be circulated for us, because if we were to start our operation from 4th of May, today we are already standing in 22nd. And if we were to follow any directive which comes on, say, 30th of April, I think people would not have time to make adequate provisions for those efforts. I think we have to ensure sanitation of the stores. We have to ensure that minimum number of safety equipments should be there. There should be sanitizers available. There should be a thermal gun for checking the fever. There could be situations, say, even if we start checking customers without any directives, and what if a customer comes with a fever of 103? I think there is absolutely no guidelines whether we can allow them or not. I think it will make situation worse at the end of the day. So there has to be a clear directives which they should release. Maybe they can circulate a draft beforehand for us to comment upon that, for us to plan our things. Because if you see the entire country, all the retailers going to start, and if this directive comes on the last hour, I'm sure I think most of us would fail in terms of planning the activity.
Absolutely.
Third bit would be in terms of support from the state would be there are states who has waived minimum demands of electricity for stores. I think wherein West Bengal government has clearly said no to it. So I think that's where they also needs to revisit in terms of the burden which already people are taking, and revisit that decision of theirs.
Right.
And last bit would be now then, since it will be a new normal situation wherein the focus would be in terms of ensuring hygiene, ensuring safety of the customers. We also expect some sort of a subsidy in terms of these devices which we are to invest upon.
True. So while we do not have any revenues, our cost of operations are surely going to go up whenever we open
Absolutely.
post-COVID. A bottle of sanitizer costs about 500 to 600, and you may need 2 bottles per day or a bottle per day for your kind of a store. So yeah, the cost of operations of the store are going to go up, but you don't have a choice for the safety.
That is very critical. I'll tell you why. Because one mishap at any of the store would turn the wheels back. So I think
Absolutely.
none of the retailers can afford any sort of a compromise in terms of safety or hygiene maintenance at the store. Because if tomorrow there is one news that some people got contaminated with COVID in particular outlet, I think
Right.
again it will turn the tide back. So we'll be back to square one.
Absolutely. We saw what one pizza did to Delhi. So I know it just can put wildfire. So that's some good points. Rachit, what is your expectations from the government, which apart from the points which Tejas has already mentioned, do you have anything for the government on the tax perspective or any other perspective?
See, from the tax perspective, the people are telling to reduce the GST and stuff like that. So for me, I feel like if the sale is going to happen, then we have to pay tax. So first the sale has to happen. So reducing tax and stuff, that's the only thing government has. So that is not one big thing which is going to solve the problem. The what I feel the government should have is that they should actually plan. And what Tejas told, we need to have a directive today. We are told on third we have to open the stores, and we open the stores, and after 4 days, like we plan accordingly, and we open the store, and then after 2 days you get the directive, no, you have to close the store. So
Right.
you'll have to have a clear directive and planning key what is the future, like how are you going to do it. So whether it's going to be in phases, in first phase what is going to be open, second phase what. So because we have to even plan our back end, because we need to have our carriers back and stuff like that. So there's been a supply chain also, like for we need alteration we need. So there's from government there has to be a planning key what are they going to do. In first phase they need to open what things are going to open, second phase, so it's going to be phase wise, or it's going to everything's going to open together. So that is one thing what I expect from government to come out clean. Second, what we expect from government is like from the finance point of view, the RBI, they have not even like they need to pump in money from like everybody, like we need to have some liquidity in hand, because in retail we don't have a lot of cash surplus, because every day we are generating cash.
True.
So I think so we keep a lot of cash liquidity in hand, because every day when we have a cash liquidity sale, so we don't need to keep a cash reserve of a lot of days. So keeping now in this in mind, we need our banks and our partners to pump in money, uh, like uh, uh, like a few of the state banks have done. So we need to, from banks, it has to be a clear directive to the banks from the government, that this is the help you need to the retailers, MSMEs, focal point to all the industries which are mainly affected due to the COVID-19.
Okay. So what about you, Anurag? What do you want from the government side for your industry and for retailers?
See, as I emphasized multiple times. The situation is still evolving, and we don't have a set goalpost to aim at. However, based on the present day situation, I would say that every business, every SME has three major outflows. Of course, cash is what we don't have right now, and the expenses are still there, and the revenues are zero. So there are three heads which basically have our outflows as retailers. One is the rent, then your EMIs. If anybody has a term loan or a overdraft facility, then we have our interest and EMIs which are still getting debited. And the moratorium that has been offered by the government is more of a sham, really, because you are going to pay interest on interest. So if you are able to pay, you should absolutely pay. And the third being the salaries. So one at a time, as far as the first part, rental, is concerned. So once this opens up, I think there will be a huge conflict in business, and most of our productive time will be gone in conflict resolution between the landlord and the tenant. And how much is that going to create undesirable situation? So government should sooner or later should come out with some sort of directive on this, that what should be about the rent during this part, because there is no win-win situation here, because people who are running malls, they have their EMIs to pay. At the same time, the tenants do not have any money to pay. So so government should come out with some sort of guidelines so that conflict is minimized. Number two, as far as the moratorium is concerned, initially when RBI briefing was there, it seemed as if if you have a tenure of 15 years, it will simply become 15 years 3 months, and they would just not consider these 3 months, and you don't have to pay any EMIs. But in actuality, it so happened that you are only capitalizing your interest that you're not paying. So this is absolutely no. They have not addressed anything in terms of moratorium on interest or EMIs. And as far as salaries is concerned, well, this is something which is very personal, I would say, and it would vary with business to business. Say a mom and pop shop is there, which has a salami bhada or a owned premises, and has got one boy to pay salary to. Of course, they would not have enough outflow not to be able to support him for 3 months or so. So those are the happiest guys right now. The problem is people who are running retail at a particular scale. We still have revenues as zero, but our outflows are extremely high. So if that is where, so you cannot judge everybody with one scale. The parameter of ethics is very different to a mom and pop shop right now, and to a retail brand which is running multiple shops. So and as rightly put, we all reinvest our money into the business. It might be sitting in stocks, it might be sitting in some business premises you bought. You can't sell a piece of it and service your 3 months. So the government has to kind of legislate. Some of the provisions of labor law have to be liberalized, and government has to realize that ultimately employment is going to come out of businesses that are going to still remain alive, and a little bit of leverage should be given in terms of laying off, so that we don't have multiple fronts to fight on once we are back to business. We would have enough problems as it is right now. So those are the key asks from the government at this particular moment.
Okay. What about you, Siddharth? If I could take the question more on a global perspective, we've seen governments outside being more proactive as far as retail is concerned, recognizing their problems, pitching in salaries for employees. Even a country like Bangladesh has announced some measures and towards that, and UK has waived off rentals and house tax allowances and property taxes. So, do you think the government has done enough, or there's more to come? And what would you like to suggest to them as a measure, which as a retailer, how we can they can help us?
I think as a country, India is very, very different from all these examples that we said in terms of rural-urban divide, education, non-education, and different things. I think the first effort of the government is try to minimize the spread and ensure कि सबको खाना मिले and everybody livelihood. And I was at a webinar with Piyush Goyal where he said कि this is for the first time where even in this crisis एक भी laborer भूखा नहीं मरा. So that is the current focus of the government, and government has currently all just said कि they are not looking at economic package. Immediately the first prerogative being health and ensuring sustenance of everybody. I'm sure the governments of the day would kind of, rise to this challenge to do something. They're aware of this and they'll do. I think, see, it's larger than, come back to the earlier point, is सबको साथ मिलके निकालना है, because government also has limited resources given the amount of poverty and exists in India. A small thing, I think the biggest problem in India is, the interest cost that each one of us bear in our business. I'm saying today that is the biggest challenge, and somewhere if it comes to a situation where, government, bears some burden of it, saying कि यार एक काम करो, इस period का interest, bank reduce 50% of the 50%, 20% bank bears, 20% I bear. So tomorrow if my 80 lakh rupee interest in the mall comes down to say 40 lakh rupees, then I say भाई चलो 40 लाख तो retailer को पास के retailer 25% नुकसान भरो, 25 मैं भरा, 25 bank भरा, 25. Somewhere if anything can be done on the interest rate during this period, because that is which will burden all of us, whether as an individual or a business or something. Number two, see, consumption I feel has to be on, क्योंकि ये धंधा ही नहीं बचेगा, लोग खरीदेंगे ही नहीं तो क्या करेंगे?
Absolutely.
हम लोग interest relief, GST relief, अगर धंधा आने से eventually चलेगा, so whatever has to be done, it has to be done to ensure continuity of business. So that I think is more important, to ensure that the demand is there, ensure the jobs are there, because if खरीदेगा ही नहीं तो, what will you fight for? What will the retailer and the mall owner fight for?
Do you think the consumption is going to get affected maybe in the next 5 to 6 months? I mean, I know you are looking at a 3-month horizon mostly.
100%, because see, what has happened for most people, deferment of interest doesn't mean anything, because eventually whether it's a person working for you has to pay that.
True.
So somewhere if that interest during this period is subsidized significantly, where the bank says कि इस period में 10 के बदले मैं 8 लेता हूँ, government बोलता है उस 8 में 2 मैं देता हूँ 2%, and then only that this impact of everything could get subsided to some impact, is what I'm trying to say. Because this interest is going to kill everybody. Even the person who has EMI, वो बोलता है कि सर आप सैलरी तो काट रहे हो, मेरे को तो 3 महीने बाद EMI देना ही है, मैं कहाँ से दूंगा? So we are not able to address that interest component for the next. That is somewhere, I'm sure government will work on it somewhere, because that's the loss that everybody is looking at.
So your key takeaway would be on some interest subsidy.
Two parts, on some interest subsidy, and the other key, government should do something to ensure that the demand is there, people keep buying, whether in a physical mall, because even today, even in a developed market like US, online sales are only 13% or 14%.
Absolutely.
So if the brick and mortar will fail, that will lead to tremendous unemployment and everything. So government will have to figure out that there is demand so that everybody can survive for the next 6 months, 1 year.
Do you think it will have a ripple effect on the real estate as a category also, since you are exposed to real estate with the brick and mortar moving?
100%, it will have impact, but it will depend also. So the better will become better. So if there's like a Select City Mark in Delhi, more competition around will get killed and they'll become much stronger as well. So it will be more consolidation, is what I would say.
All right. So while we take the feedback from what the government should be doing and how we've been coping up with our own strategies, one issue which I wanted to direct to Sandeep, but I don't think he's available, so I'll direct it to you, Tejash, is how are you handling the employee salaries? So it's you mentioned how wages is increase in wages as a standard, and how UP and few other states have already done that from April, despite whatever is happening, and and a large part of your people are below 2 lakh annual pay. So how are you going to handle, because they form the core of the middle class, the belly of the middle class. So while we would want to take a humanitarian stand and stand with our employees at this point of time during the crisis, there is a financial aspect also to be looked upon. And you probably cannot go to the bank and ask for a moratorium and then keep paying salary to keep up with your humanitarian side. So how are you handling it, and what would you suggest retailers how to handle such situations? Have you worked on a formula wherein we can have a win-win situation on both sides? I understand most of our conclusion has come out that it's a collaborative effort. We need to talk, we need to sit, we need to understand each other, be it the lesser, be it the lessee, be it the employee. But at the end of the day, there has to be a mathematical formula which should come out from these talks. So anything on your mind?
So if you see, we as a value retailer, we've been caught on wrong foot. Everybody would have a credit lines, but if you see the utilization of those credit lines around the year, it will be hardly 3 months. we lost one big season of Choitro, wherein typically we should be sitting on a cash surplus situation right now,
Right.
wherein we have been reached a situation wherein we have to resort to these credit lines.
Mhm.
So if I start utilizing my credit lines, the additional cost burden would be the interest which I have to service month to month. So that is something which we intend to avoid in times to come. We don't want to resort to credit lines. Whatever cash is there, to maintain it, and the only usage of those cash would be to pay out salary. As of now, I think strategy is very clear for people. Majority of the our payroll cost goes to people who are earning less than 2 lakhs. So
Mhm.
there we continue. We intend to continue to pay the salary. Again, to what extent cash flow supports, that's one thing. Beyond a point, if situation comes, I think there if business needs pumping in money from the promoter side, I think so. I think that is also being considered. But idea is very clear for us to pay these people a salary. Like I mentioned earlier about maintaining a transparency amongst stakeholders. So there also, I think internal transparency to these people would be of significant importance, wherein leadership team would have to lead from the front, and maybe they can take a pay cut to start with during the lockdown period. Some portion of their salary may be deferred for next 6 months time, so that we can generate a cash out of this deferment and can pass it on to people who are actually in need of the hour, because there's no point we can hold or cut salary of these people, because they purely thrive on this monthly pay.
True. So yeah, I buy your point. I mean, you'll have to find a way or a formula to ensure that these people get their salaries in time.
So one formula, like I mentioned, would be leadership taking lead and take a pay cut during this lockdown period,
Mhm.
and some even post deduction. Also, some portion of the salary we intend to defer for us to have a spare cash to pay out salary to these people. The last resort would be resorting to credit lines. But again, like I said, we've been caught on wrong foot.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm with you. So we have quite a few marketers who are attending this webinar, and people from uh, television channels and radio channels and from print media, and they've been posting the questions as what is going to be our marketing spend like post COVID. So while we most of us have a sulky face and we're trying to make our ends meet by to get to salaries and basic. So, I mean, I like to put this question to all of you. So, Rachit, are you going to come out on 3rd May? And since Siddharth says that, we have to ensure that consumption happens and consumption must go on in some way or the other. So, are you going to take some aggressive marketing tools to spur consumption for your category, or are you going to lay low and watch the rains come and go and wait for the winters to come? What are you going to do?
So we are not going for a marketing strategy which is going to be like come out and just start doing marketing. We are going to lay low, and we are going to do social. We are going to opt different kind of marketing strategy where we are going to use social media as a main tool to
Mhm.
focus on marketing on audience base and stuff like that, because as is a luxury market, so we will be targeting more on people on social media for our marketing strategy. We will be doing aggressively on social media, but not on a newspaper or any other medium. We are going to focus, if we come to open, we're going to more focus on social media stuff.
What about you, Siddharth? Raymond spends heavily on
I'll tell
print.
you, so these all of this will depend again on different businesses and different geographies. So for a Raymond business, whatever, it has to be done at the brand level. But what might happen, for certain business, even say for a Raymond business, making call to your 100 top customers saying, if you want to come, we will open half an hour before you or something. So, in a mall today, there is nothing to advertise. You can only say, it is safe to come, and these are the measures that we've taken, and then leave it to the discretion of each individual to decide whether he wants to come or don't come, because there will be 30-40% footfall which will not come for the multiplex or food court. So the mall, you can, at this moment, one thing which you can do is inform people, these are the steps for hygiene, safety, and security that we've taken, which should safeguard. But say it will be different for a real estate business, because there we are already seeing there is a higher intent for people, based on this type of crash of financial markets and stock market. Now the people are saying, चलो घर तो अपना है, मिलता है यार, अपने घर में रहते हैं. So each business will have a different, like as we speak, we are already thinking of a large real estate campaign, not on the 3rd of May, but on the 5th of May. So
Okay.
each business will walk its own cycle based on the ticket value, based on the need of the hour, what is the customer sentiment. So like in the real estate business for homes, we're suddenly seeing more inquiries, people who are not, now they're saying at least this is the investment we need. Kabhi bhada to maaf nahi hua, EMI to deferment ho gaya, stuff like that. So each
Okay.
business will have a different, so obviously you need marketing. धंधा ही नहीं रहेगा तो करोगे क्या यार, मक्खी तो मारना नहीं है. So each business will have to find its own measure is but a lot of marketing is already shifting digital.
Mm-hmm.
So currently we realize more and lesser people will come out of homes. So might be we don't do hoardings, but people are reading newspapers, so is print a better medium. Also, a lot of this advertising will also become a lot cheaper. So like currently, if you go to any newspaper, they will give you rates which you've never thought of. Might be 30% of their earlier rates or 25% of their earlier rates. So it will keep varying from business to business, medium to medium, geography to geography.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you, Tejas? You do a fair amount of spending on both outdoor and on print, even on the radio. So you see that going lukewarm now for some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Outdoor will definitely take a backseat because if people are not coming out, there's no point spending outdoor, and there will be a gradual shift in digital marketing spend. I think this is what we're looking at. Radio is something which we are also thinking of late. We had a strategy to go big in terms of radio, but that will also dry down a bit now because we expect people to listen to radio while they're commuting. Naturally, there is no movement among people, so that will die down in itself. So we used to heavily spend on outdoor. Very small portion of our spend was on digital. Now that digital we have to focus in terms of marketing and which was there in terms of outdoor marketing. The idea would be not to let that money park it in terms of savings, but rather to give it back to the customer and bring them back. So restoring their confidence and ensure they come back to us. I think that would be very, very important. So the entire strategy of marketing will undergo a significant change. The way we used to look at marketing, be it our print media spend, be it, yeah.
How about you, Anurag? Do you see there's a change in the way you used to spend your marketing money?
Yeah, as far as we are concerned, we prematurely terminated our contracts with some radio stations as soon as COVID hit. So
Right.
Till the situation becomes anywhere close to normal, there's no question of spending big. There wouldn't be any money to spend on. So
True.
you don't really spend money on advertisement and capitalize it during these times. Having
Right.
said that, it's not all gloomy. We expect normalcy to fall in place gradually, not overnight, and we expect during this period an heightened interest in online for our products. So we already were advertising on social media handles, and we were creating our own videos, our own posts, and that we only would intensify. And that isn't very capital intensive for us because we already have the in-house capability. And social media is very engaging if you have
I think we lost him.
were working on this for 3 years, and we are at a reasonably good place now. And we would only intensify those efforts as soon as it opens up and as soon as people are in a mood to buy.
All
So,
right.
but yes, no major spending because every rupee has to be conserved right now because we believe that we are in a shakeout period more than anything else. This is a genesis period, and be it it would take couple of quarters or it might take 4 quarters, but you will certainly have lesser number of competitors to contend with at the end of it. So you have to make sure that you are one of those standing still, and you can only do that by pruning and rationalizing your costs. So at this point of time, talking of spending on advertisement actually, I would say looks rather out of place. There is no question about that.
Okay. So while we all have concluded that we are looking at, a day at a time, a week at a time, and the highest horizon which we see is 3 months, I'd like to stick my head out and ask this question. Do any of us have a long-term view? So 2021, 2022, do you think things changing for the long term? So anybody who has a long term view, if he wants to share that.
I personally feel things will normalize. It is just a
Okay,
period. It's that curve, So it's not the end or the doomsday of everything.
that's consolidated.
Even in fact, when you look at work from home, if there is gonna be work from home, people will have a lot more time also. A lot of people might go to a cafe and work, which will mean increased business for F&B and everything. So it is just a period of time. I think this will perhaps impact will be there for 3 months, 6 months. But I'm sure by the end of next year, by March 2021, the vaccine or the treatment and all, which is the biggest comfort factor, will come up. So I think everything will stabilize. And even if there is, based on, again, business to business, nature to nature, there might be a small shift, offline to online, and it will come back. So there's nothing long term. The only challenge is how do we sustain ourselves for the next 1 year. I think if we can live this 1 year, everything will
Absolutely.
get on track is what I'm personally seeing.
All right. Anybody else has a long-term view on how things? So I think I agree with Siddharth as far as is concerned. He says that everything is going to come back in a gradual way. So while we had a few events, we had demonetization in the past, an event not similar to COVID, but where everything changed overnight for us, and digital payment came in, and everybody was using digital wallets. But maybe after 6 months or after 8 months, we saw the cash coming back in the economy and people coming back to cash as far as spending is concerned. So that while I think Tejas would agree with me, while we saw increase in swipes immediately first to 3 months after demonetization, that kind of naturally weaned off post 6 months. And I think
I also have another thing to add, Pulak here.
yes,
To give credit to the government, while we might keep cribbing, the government has been pretty proactive in responding to the crisis on the health part, and including, taking out notifications, issuing guidelines, and so on and so forth. I'm sure the government of the day is quite aware of the situation, and they will try and do everything to protect jobs. If they are able to protect jobs, the businesses will also at some point get protected and consumer will. So I think government will also respond. I think let's give it some time. It's a proactive government. It is working, and I'm sure it will. I don't see many state governments doing a lot because state governments also have limited resources. While
absolutely.
some might be able to do, some might not be able to do. But I think eventually we'll come out of it. Government will also respond. The moment things get settled down, they'll also have an idea because if the business does not respond, where will they get income tax or GST? So it is
True.
in their own interest if they have to collect these taxes.
Absolutely.
Sure that the business sale नहीं होगा तो क्या GST and where is the income?
I think the government is the biggest loser with the flow of money almost zero. So there's no tax collection whatsoever.
Correct. And
And
we are then also in a position in our businesses to say we won't pay salaries or we can retrench people. Government can't even do that. So
true.
I'm sure it is a part and it will phase off. It will take its own time though.
All right, thank you, people. So I think we've got a very good and honest conclusion where we have our grudges and cribs against the government. We end on a note where we say that yes, they have done well as far as the health function is concerned. They have done well by keeping people indoors and containing the spread as much as concerned. And that's our cue that if they've done well on the health front, I'm sure they will have something planned for the economic front too, and which will come in its due course. And it's time we be patient. And I was reading this morning that patience is a companion of wisdom, and wisdom is like bread dough. So it takes its time to proof and rise. So I think once wisdom dawns with one of the key administrators and a good administrator handling our country, and once we be patient, so both of us being companions, I think there would be some good news coming our way soon. And while there's reason to worry and to introspect and take each day at its time, I think there's a silver lining out soon. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate the time uh, given, and I appreciate the inputs. We will ask RAI to take our inputs and share it with the government as far as the government side is concerned, where notifications can be more proactive. Thank you, Siddharth. You've highlighted various aspects from a
Sure.
mall owner perspective, a retailer perspective, and from a consumer perspective and a home builder perspective. Tejas, thank you. You've brought in the financial side into the discussion, wherein you've highlighted quite a few things for us, what we should be doing and how we should address this problem. Rachit, thank you. While you and I belong to the discretionary spending category, and we can just hope that India bounces back sooner and the discretionary spends continues. While Anurag is on a more comfortable chair with the small ticket size. Thank you, Rachit, and thank you, Anurag. I think your inputs on e-tail was really valuable. I appreciate you all joining in today and taking time out, and thank you so much. I think we'll end at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.
Thank you.